The wondrous beauty that we know as the United States can hardly be appreciated from an airplane 35,000 feet above the earth. No, to see America properly, one must stay on the ground to see the many spectacular sights across this vast country. In America by Rail, we will travel from Washington, D.C. westward across the country to San Francisco aboard Amtrak passenger trains. While crossing the country, we will stop at several different excursion railroads to enjoy additional scenery and sample other railroading adventures. No visit to the east is complete without a visit to Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States. It is here that much of what makes America so great is shaped. The White House, where the president and family live, is located here, as well as Congress and the rest of the federal government. Our departure will be from the magnificent Washington Union Station, which includes the newly refurbished interior areas that make this one of America's great railroad landmarks. Down on the platform, our Amtrak train is being boarded. Appropriately named the Capital Limited, our train will follow the old Baltimore and Ohio Railroad route as we head west to Chicago, the western terminal for this particular train. Our journey to Chicago will pass through the District of Columbia and the states of Maryland, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois. Although Amtrak runs the only intercity passenger trains in the USA outside of Alaska, there are many other delightful but not as lengthy train rides. Before we leave the East Coast, let's visit one such operation, the famous Strasburg Railroad, located near Lancaster, Pennsylvania. The Strasburg Railroad was chartered in 1832 and is the oldest operating common carrier railroad in the country. This charming 9-mile round trip runs from East Strasburg to Paradise and is known for its lovely Pennsylvania Dutch countryside and the Amish residents along the route. Our locomotive is recently restored engine number 475, which was originally built for the Norfolk and Western Railroad in 1906. The Strasburg Railroad is known for its superbly restored passenger cars. During the lunch hour, you can even enjoy a meal in the dining car as the train rolls along at a gentle pace through the peaceful countryside.
Have your picnic, return on any later train.
The Strasburg Railroad operates several 45-minute trips during operating days and offers an entertaining ride the whole family can enjoy. We rejoin Amtrak's Capital Limited as we roll west from Point of Rocks, Maryland. This section of the route is through the beautiful Potomac River Valley and will treat us to rolling hills, quaint villages, and many tunnels. As we head westward, we pass through the tiny town of Green Springs, West Virginia, where we see the Potomac Eagle excursion train greeting us on the adjacent tracks. The Potomac Eagle excursion train starts south of Green Springs at the town of Romney, West Virginia, and follows the south branch of the Potomac River southward approximately 17 miles on a 3.5-hour rail excursion to the remote river gorge known as the Trough. Vintage diesel locomotives pulled today's train, which consists of regular coaches as well as first-class service that includes meals served in the lounge cars.
Virginia was entirely northern persuasion, but its eastern panhandle had a lot of slave owners before the Civil War. The town of Romney itself took right in the past.
The Potomac Eagle gets its name from the south branch of the Potomac River and the main attraction along the river, the nesting areas of the American bald eagle. Patrons see eagles on 90% of the train rides, and we were not disappointed on our visit, seeing several eagles both at the nests and in flight. The beauty of this remote region is perfect for the eagles, and the lovely river scenery is a great place for a train ride.
Now this is a new nest. Last year there was a huge nest in this tree in the exact same spot. There's an eagle flying right straight down the river beside the train. Just flew into the tree across the river.
Our next stop on Amtrak is Cumberland, Maryland. Here we pause for a visit to the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad, which is only 30 miles away from the Potomac Eagle at Romney. The Western Maryland Scenic operates a 3-hour round trip from the old Western Maryland Depot in Cumberland to the Depot Restaurant in Frostburg. The route passes through the Cumberland Narrows, Helmsteaders Curve, through a tunnel, and climbs 1,300 feet in elevation in the Allegheny Mountain scenery. Our vintage diesel was built by the Montreal Locomotive Works and spent its mainline career working passenger trains in Canada. Arriving at the former Cumberland and Pittsburgh Railroad Depot in Frostburg, lunch awaits the hungry crowd at the Depot Restaurant. Before returning to Cumberland, the locomotive is turned on a turntable. The railroad usually operates much longer trains behind a steam engine, but the locomotive was being refurbished at the time of our visit. We now depart Cumberland on the Capital Limited for an overnight journey through Pennsylvania and Ohio that will take us through the Allegheny Mountains, passing through Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and Toledo as we head for Chicago. Even though Amtrak passes through Ohio at night, there is a fine train that you can ride during the day. The Ohio Central Railroad in the Amish country near New Philadelphia. The train ride starts at Sugar Creek and makes a 1-hour, 12-mile round trip to the small town of Baltic. The steam engine was built in Canada in 1912, and it operates 5 days a week, making the Ohio Central the only regularly operated steam train in Ohio. Like the Strasburg Railroad, this is Amish farm country, and the area has been called the Switzerland of Ohio. The rolling landscape and picturesque farms make this a quaint train ride for everyone to enjoy. A new day dawns in South Bend, Indiana for Amtrak's Capital Limited. Between here and Chicago, agriculture gives way to industry as the train rolls out its final miles into Chicago. Chicago is the third largest city in America and is a major hub of transportation. It is from the Great Chicago Union Station that we switch trains to continue our journey west. We will complete our journey to San Francisco by riding aboard the famous California Zephyr. Departing Chicago in the mid-afternoon, our train will take 2 nights and 2 more days to reach the West Coast. Hungry travelers can venture to the dining car, where Amtrak chefs might prepare you anything from a full-course meal to a tasty sandwich. Once out of the Chicago suburbs, the train is traveling through the rich Illinois farm country. The California Zephyr is one of Amtrak's more modern trains, using the bi-level Superliner cars. The Superliner cars afford more room than the single-level equipment, and the view from the Sightseer lounge car is quite popular with Amtrak riders. Our train is crossing the mighty Mississippi River into the city of Burlington, Iowa. Here, the river provides another means of transportation, as barge traffic must pass through the opened swing bridge, which is now closed to permit our train to cross from Illinois into Iowa. One of Amtrak's newest locomotives, called the Genesis engine, projects a space-age look as it pulls our train west from Burlington. It's getting dark as we roll through eastern Iowa, but again, we decide to spend some time at another excursion train operation. North of our route is the town of Boone, Iowa, which is noted for being the birthplace of President Eisenhower's wife, Mamie. For railroaders, it is famous for having a very special steam locomotive, a Chinese engine that was built new for the Boone and Scenic Railroad in the late 1980s. This impressive engine hauls tourists on a 15-mile, 1.5 hour round-trip ride through river valleys and over high trestles. In addition to the steam train ride, the railroad offers short trolley car rides into the town of Boone. An old interurban car from Indiana's South Shore Railroad does the honors today. California Zephyr passes through most of Iowa and Nebraska at night on the Burlington Northern Railroad. We'll make another stopover in Omaha, Nebraska to take you to the zoo. Not only is this one of the finest zoos in the United States, it also has a 30-inch wide, narrow gauge railroad, which people can ride to see portions of the zoo. The steam engine is an authentic tank engine from Austria, built in 1890. It uses oil for fuel instead of coal, and the ride covers 2.5 miles in under 30 minutes. The Omaha Zoo is noted for its lead jungle rainforest exhibit, which is the most visited exhibit in any zoo in America. The Omaha Zoo and the train ride provide something for the train lover as well as the casual tourist wanting to enjoy the zoo. early morning finds the California Zephyr under moonlight as we race across the Great Plains. Soon the prairie and small farming towns of eastern Colorado will give way to the great Rocky Mountains west of Denver. We are inside the cab of a new Genesis locomotive as we leave metropolitan Denver. Our train has been serviced and a fresh crew is aboard as we continue west. We will climb the Front Range, gaining nearly 4,000 feet to an elevation of 9,239 feet. The 6 1/2 mile long Moffett Tunnel will mark the high point of our westward journey. The run from Denver to Glenwood Springs takes over 5 hours as we travel 185 rail miles. This is the heart of the Rockies, and the line was formerly traversed by the famous Rio Grande Zephyr between Denver and Salt Lake City. Today, the Rio Grande Railroad is owned by Southern Pacific. We can still travel this route as a passenger on a Zephyr train. Arriving in Glenwood Springs, we have traveled through some of the toughest standard gauge railroading in America. When many of Colorado's railroads were originally constructed, they were built as narrow gauge, and a visit to a famous 3-foot gauge steam railroad while in Colorado must be on every railroader and tourist's agenda. The Durango and Silverton Narrow Gauge Railroad operates a 90-mile round trip between Durango and Silverton, Colorado, using former Rio Grande narrow gauge steam locomotives. This famous line was completed to the mining town of Silverton in 1881, and the beauty of the Animas River Canyon and San Juan National Forest are breathtaking. In the peak summer months, the railroad will operate as many as 5 different trains per day, as tourists from around the world come to see the beauty of this railroad firsthand. their arrival in Silverton, passengers have the opportunity to explore this historic mining community. Unlike many American small towns, Silverton has changed little over the years. train is arriving in Thompson, Utah, a town so small you wonder why they even stop here, except that it is close to Canyonlands and Arches National Park. A visit to Arches National Park is a nice diversion for the traveler, as incredible sandstone formations carved by Mother Nature millions of years ago are a must-see for visitors to southeastern Utah. Approximately 40 miles east of Salt Lake City is the Heber Valley Railroad. Although our Amtrak train arrives in this area at night, a stopover is recommended to visit this railroad. The line has three distinct types of scenery as it passes through a large open valley, skirts a beautiful mountain lake, then enters the lovely River Canyon as it makes a 32-mile, 3.5-hour round trip between Heber City and Vivian Park near Provo, Utah. Dawn finds our Amtrak train in the middle of Nevada. During the midnight servicing in Salt Lake City, our train became shorter as some cars were sent on another train to Los Angeles. One of the largest cities between Salt Lake City and Sacramento is Reno, Nevada. And since gambling is legal in the state, Reno is one of the major spots for big-name casinos. While some may want to try their luck in Reno, we have decided to get off for a slight diversion south to Virginia City. The Virginia and Truckee Railroad operates a 5-mile round trip between Gold Hill and Virginia City in the heart of the historic Comstock mining region. Our ride will feature the mining area at Gold Hill, steep grades, a tunnel, and the town of Virginia City. Our locomotive is engine 29, an oil-burning 280 built by the Baldwin Locomotive Works in 1916. The area and the train ride are full of historic Western flavor and Nevada scenery. Departing Reno, we are about to cross the Sierra Nevada range through Donner Pass. The line follows the Truckee River for much of the uphill section to Donner Lake near Truckee, California. West of Sacramento, we make another stop to sample some of the fine dining in the wine country around Napa, California. The Napa Valley Wine Train operates lunch and dinner trains on a 36-mile trip from Napa, California to St. Helena and return. Appropriately, wine-colored diesels provide the power for this handsome train set that takes guests on a pleasant ride through the wine country, passing many of the famous California wineries as patrons have dinner or indulge in their favorite wines. It's a first-class operation all the way.
See, the pouring is different. It's got to be.
He's sitting on the first part. You got 150.
All right.
It'll get a little bit more full and then we'll roll. These nuts go on too.
The final segment of our Amtrak rail experience takes us along the shores of San Pablo Bay as we begin to experience the sights of the west coast of California. Arriving in Oakland, our train trip aboard the California Zephyr is over. From Oakland, we take the Amtrak bus across the San Francisco Bay to reach San Francisco. Now that our cross-country journey aboard Amtrak is complete, we will sample some of the numerous sights in this city by the bay. Even though San Francisco completes our transcontinental train ride, there are two more notable tourist trains in California that are nearby. The Roaring Camp and Big Trees Narrow Gauge Railroad operates a 6-mile, 1.25-hour round trip through the famous Redwood Forest near Felton, California. The line features rare trees that are hundreds of years old and several very steep railroad grades. Today, our steam locomotive is a geared engine called a Heisler. Engine number 2 was built in 1899 and is formerly West Side Lumber Company number 3. This is a 3-foot narrow gauge railroad, the same rail width as the Durango and Silverton, which we visited in Colorado.
This is where some of our largest redwood trees are. Some of these trees are in the neighborhood of 300 feet tall, and some of them are over 1,500 years old. These are actually the tallest type of trees in the world. They've been recorded to grow just under 400 feet tall. And you can only pull a turn like this with a narrow gauge track, and that's what we use. It's 36 inches from rail to rail, and that's considerably narrower than a standard gauge, which is 56.5 inches wide. Now, with standard gauge, you can carry heavier payloads, but you can't pull nearly as tight a turn like this one we're on right now. Now, to put this steep grade into perspective, when Amtrak crosses the Rocky Mountains, they don't do anything over a 3.5% grade. And when Caltrans builds their highways, they don't do anything over a 6% grade. Just up here is an 8.5%, and then the steepest part of our trip, the section that we back up, is a 9.25% grade.
The unique thing about Roaring Camp is that two different trains depart from here. Narrow gauge steam line we have been watching, and the Santa Cruz, Big Trees, and Pacific Railway, which operates from here to the boardwalk in downtown Santa Cruz. The standard gauge train, pulled by former Santa Fe Railway diesels, takes you through redwood forests, down the streets of Santa Cruz, and right to the beach and amusement park. Between these two train rides, you are sure to have an enjoyable time in the area.
On the California coast, they look very major right now, but when we get on average 50 inches of rain, it can really be moving. Just the old trees sometimes without that. It's going to go right where we're going. It's going right to where the boardwalk is. If you have a chance to walk on the boardwalk, if you walk right down to the end of it, you'll see the river mouth. You probably see some guys sitting on surfboards. There's some good surf there. That's like to surf the river mouth. Here's the Santa Rosa River. Again, if you look up above your head, you'll see 1909 coming through that big I-beam up above your head on that big steel bridge.
Having reached the Pacific Ocean at Santa Cruz, we have completed a dozen different scenic and interesting excursion train rides. Our Amtrak journey from Washington to San Francisco has covered more than 3,200 miles. And we have enjoyed the changing landscapes as we have traveled across America by rail.